So my ass is still holding the plugs together like, okay, this was supposed to happen, right? But my brain isn't registering that there's fire shooting out of the plug. You release some type of dopamine or serotonin in your body when you say, oh, I'm going to do this thing, I'm going to do that thing. And you get the reward from somebody being like, good job, great, you're going to do that. And then because you got the reward before you actually did the work, you never actually go out and do the thing that you were supposed to do originally because you technically already got the reward for doing it. Project Podcast, where you can see how we turn our life into a living. My name is DonivanGray. And my beautiful girlfriend's name is AnetaBurn, ANetaBurn. I'm a little off kilter today. I'm gonna explain why in about 15 minutes. You can find us on YouTube if you listen to it on Spotify or Apple or another major streaming platform. We have, like I said, I'm a little just off. All of our social medias will be in the description. We have a bamboo food page, we have a fitness page, we have a music page, a clothing page, we have a fitness page, and we have the Bamboo Project Podcast. So I'm doing consultations, so you can DM me and we can talk about the price once you DM me. Can you scroll down? So the timestamps for this video will be in the description as well. So I'm gonna start off with why I wouldn't even say I'm annoyed. I'm not annoyed. It's just, I'm not annoyed by it. But so last week on the podcast, I talked about how I applied for a loan and side note, it's also 5:32. So, and it's September 1st. So I applied for a loan, right? And the plan for the loan was to take it, add the money that I have saved up, add the money that Melissa has saved up, and then put a down payment on a property, and then rehab the property, and then not rent the property out, rehabilitate it, and then flip it. That was the plan for the that we had with the loan, right? So, my friend from work had told me about the loan. He got approved for like $20,000, and he put that he is an independent contractor, and he also, got $20,000. So I'm like, okay, if he can get the $20,000, I should be able to get it. So I applied for the loan. I asked him how to do it, and he was like, just go on YouTube. They have people that show you how to do it. So I did that. I go on YouTube. I'm filling it out, and one thing that stuck out to me that I feel like probably is what held me up with this. I applied as a sole proprietor instead of an independent contractor, which I am. So I applied like a Friday, so I didn't get a response until Tuesday, which was the morning of last week's podcast. So when they actually responded to me, I was like, oh, okay, bet. They sent me the amount of money that I was approved for. I'm like, or that I thought I was approved for. No, they sent me the amount of money that I was definitely approved for. So I'm like, all right, cool. My friend said he got that after like a week. He got the money. And everything was good. I'm like, all right, that seems simple. So I did that, right? So that was last week. So flash forward to today. It's a week from last week. I'm like, all right, I should probably get a response today from the guy or from the SBA. So I applied last week. Today I get a response, and they want information. They want to know my bank history. They want to know they want me to be able to prove the business exists. Now, I think the only reason that they did that is because I put sole proprietorship instead of a independent contractor. For people who do not know, independent contractor was somebody that technically they are their business. So if I go out and I work for Uber or Lyft or Caviar, I'm considered independent contractor. They are contracting me for work. A sole proprietorship is different because you have to actually go and set up a business. So I did not have the information for that. So when they were asking me for it, I could not provide the sole proprietorship information that they would want. If I had put independent contractor, I'm pretty sure I would have been able to get it. So they asked me for bank statements. I sent them my personal bank statements. Then they asked me for my website. I'm like, I don't have one. I got an email back saying that I was denied because I don't have an online presence. And I'm like, what? Like that. The process for him was within 4 days, and it took me a week to get the response, a week and a half to get the response to then be told no. So I'm just like, damn, it just kind of sucks. So what I plan to do is I'm going to reapply for it. And then I'm going to apply as an independent contractor. And then I'll also apply for my business as well. And we'll see how that helps, because I feel like my mouth feels weird. So like I said, I'm going to reapply for it after the podcast, because that's the plan that we have. Now, the reason why it's annoying. I don't know if something is annoying, does that mean you're annoyed? Probably, right? I guess I would say I'm annoyed. Yeah, I'm gonna go. I guess by definition, I would technically be annoyed by what's happening right now. So, I've been kind of calm over the last couple of weeks, right? Maybe like the last 3 weeks. So what happened was, right, the last day that I started working, I was coming home from work, and I'm like, you know what? I choose to be stressed about things that are going on in my life. There's nobody else that can control how I feel. If I'm stressed or not, it's up to me. So I decided, all right, I'm just going to not care anymore. I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. I don't care. So I had that mentality going forward. I'm like, whatever happens. It is what it is. And I felt in a lot better space and place from doing that. And things were just flowing. I didn't really have the mental stress that I had before I made that decision. And I'm like, okay, this feels better. And then that's not around the time, but soon after that, when I bought the table, so I bought the real estate class, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do the things that I think I should be doing, and I'm not going to put too much thought into it and what could possibly go wrong, or how could I spend my money differently, or how can I operate from a place of scarcity, like I talked about last week, where it's like, okay, if I could just penny pinch my money, then I don't have to really worry about something bad happening to me. So I'm like, you know what? Whatever happens, happens. If I get evicted, I get evicted. If I lose all my money, I lose all my money. If my bike stops working, I'll just try and fix it. But I'm not going to try and have that mental stress over it. So last week I had said that I actually said it, but I didn't explain what happened. So my bike has stopped working last week again. So now you guys have seen for the last month and a half to 2 months, this has been a common trend. It started off with my spokes breaking, so I couldn't go to work. Then after that, my controller broke after I was working for a couple of days after I got the spokes fixed. Then after I got the spokes, like I said, the spokes fixed, the controller stopped working. After I got the controllers I bought a new controller, got that to work. I went to work the next day, then the motor wasn't working. So I'm like, all right, bet. So I had Matt come over last week. He fixed the motor. I bought new parts for it. He fixed it. Everything was working fine. He tested it. Everything is good. So the next day I go to work, and was it the next day? Oh, yes. I remember. It's okay. I remember exactly what happened. So I was working. After he fixed the motor, I was going to work. It was acting kind of funky, but I'm like, it's fine. It just needs some maintenance probably, or some rewiring. Everything will be good. So I was working for a couple of days, maybe like 2 weeks. I had talked about in the podcast. I got back to work. I was good. I was excited. I'm making some money. Good. Everything's going back in order in terms of not having to ride my bike anymore for these people. So after that, everything is going good. I'm all happy. I come downstairs to go to work the next day. I have a flat tire, right? And I'm just like, okay. I'm like, a flat tire is not hard to fix. The only problem with it is I have to just go and get one. And through this whole Corona thing, everybody's like having weird hours and weird rules about when you could come in, if you could come in, if they have this, if they have that. So that was an annoying thing. So I get the tire. Now, mind you, I've been changing tires recently a lot. So I'm like, all right, I should be able to do this. Normally I have problems with changing tires, but since I've been doing this so often recently, I'm like, I can just knock this out. I go over there, take an Uber to the place. It's about 10 minutes, 15 minutes from my house. I come back. Everything is good. I put the new tire on. As I'm putting the tire on, I rewired the bike because I'm like, it was having some problems before when I was riding it. Like I said earlier, it was kind of funky. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to just go get the bike fixed, change the tire, and just go back to work, right? So I changed the wires on it, and then I put the battery in. No, before that, I tested the bike while I was upside down to make sure that everything is running smoothly. Everything's going good. I turned the bike right side up, put the battery inside. The bike doesn't come on. The bike is not coming on. And I'm like, we had the spokes first. Second, we had the controller that pretty much caught on fire, which was steaming hot. My bike was smoking. Then we had the flat tire, right, which was that same day. Then when I fixed the flat tire, the battery stops working. So I'm just like, you got to be kidding me. I'm like, at this point, it's just comical. I'm like, I'm not supposed to go to work. So in my head, I'm thinking, obviously, I'm supposed to be getting the money for this loan. I shouldn't be going to work. That's clearly what's happening. What the universe is telling me. I should be going to work right now. I shouldn't be going to work. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to listen. I'm going to do the work, because I always believe this too. I believe that when you don't look, it's almost like red light, green light. When you don't look at things, that's when they come to you. That's how I try to approach a lot of my life. So I'm like, okay, what would be the best thing to do right now? The best thing to do would be go and try and fix the bike like you would normally do. And then whenever the loan comes in, and then you operate after that, at that point, after you get the loan. So for the battery, I figured, okay, I called Matt. I said, yo, bro, the battery just stopped working out of nowhere. Just it's not working no more. He's like, damn, what happened? I'm like, well, I did overcharge it yesterday, so maybe that's a problem. He's like, oh yeah, that's definitely it. If you overcharge the battery, as I might have said before, there's something called a BMS. Now, for people who don't know about bikes, I'm going to give you a really short description of how this works. If you plug in, your phone has a BMS built into it too. If you plug in your battery to an outlet and you don't have a BMS on it, the bike, or in this case, the battery will overcharge, and it will cause the battery to start heating up and catch on fire, right? That's what you might have seen before with the Galaxy Notes and things like that. So when you have a BMS issue, it's called, it stands for Battery Management System. It's supposed to check all of the cells in the battery and make sure that it's all safe and that it's not overcharging or pulling too many amps or whatever. You want to go through that, right? So he's like, oh yeah, if you overcharge it without a BMS, then you might fuck up the battery. I'm like, all right, that's probably, that has to be it, because I charged it that night. I fell asleep charging the battery, so that was the most it's ever charged since I've had it without a BMS. I'm like, okay, that's clearly what it is. So he's like, all right, you got to buy a BMS, and then you have to buy a charger that matches the BMS, because like I said, you can overcharge your battery if you don't have the right BMS or if you don't have the right charger. So I was like, you know what, I got to buy a charger and buy a BMS. I bought the charger, I bought the BMS, right? So now I'm waiting from last week to this week. I'm waiting for everything to come in. I'm like, all right, bet. We're going to wait until everything is good. So like I said before that, I don't even care anymore. I said, I already expect things to just happen. I was going to happen. I don't control it. It is what it is. I'm going to do my part on it, and I'm going to keep moving forward, and whatever happens, happens. So I'm like, I'm in the house, everything's going good. I'm putting up videos on Instagram. I'm watching a real estate course. Kind of just, like I said, mentally, just whatever happens. So I'm thinking of different things to go forward with the bamboo project, because now that I'm not working, I can put most of my time and mental space into that. So the pieces coming for the bike. So I'm like, I bet the BMS comes in, and then the what was the other thing called? The chargers come in. So before that, I had Matt come and check it. He was like, yeah, bro, what did he do the first day? The first day he came over, and what did he do the first day? He checked the battery? I don't know what he came over the first day for. I forgot. It might have been just to check the battery to see if he could figure out what was wrong with it at that point. But I don't know why, because I could have done that myself. I don't know why he came over that day. Yeah, I can't remember. I don't remember why he came over the first day. Either way, the second day was a more important day, which is yesterday. I'm like, I bet you can put the BMS on, and have the new chargers. And I bought two chargers, because if you combine two chargers together, it becomes a fast charger, and you can actually charge your battery faster. So that way, I don't have to worry about staying. I can charge my battery in the morning from fully dead to fully charged, as opposed to before, where I'm like, all right, I gotta go to bed, I gotta wake up early, charge the battery, go back to sleep, or I can't charge it while I'm sleeping because it might charge too fast. Or with a new battery, I could charge it when I come home from work. It could be charged before I go to bed, so when I get up in the morning, I'm good to go. So I had everything planned out. I'm like, all right, cool, this is gonna be good. I'm doing the right step, doing the right moves, going the right direction. So, he comes over. I'm like, yo, I got the parts came in today. What day do you want to come over? He said, I'll come over today. I'm like, or come over that day, which was yesterday. I'm like, all right, cool. So he came over at like 10 o'clock, right? So he fixes it. He's working on it, opens up the battery. He said, oh shit, it's not even messed up. Your battery is fine. The only problem is that one of the wires came loose inside the battery. So nothing's wrong with it. It just had to be connected again. I'm like, oh, that's a good thing. Because that means that, there's no damage to the battery. It's just that that the wire came off. So he put the BMS on. I checked it. Everything was working. It has Bluetooth BMS. And now I can check my phone to see how the battery is doing without having to actually get out of my bed and without having to actually open up the casing. I can just check and see, okay, the cells work. They don't work. This is happening. That's happening. I can change how much electricity goes in and out of the bike or out of the battery. I'm excited. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm going back to work as soon as possible. And then for the final thing, he goes and he plugs it into the charger to go, okay, fan came on, battery's charging, Bluetooth app said the battery is charging. I'm happy. So I'm like, I bet. I'm excited. He's like, yo, crazy thing is I didn't even know this. He was telling me that the trains leave at, I feel like something. Maybe I'm dehydrated. I don't think I drank that much water today. So yeah, he was telling me that the trains, Matt was telling me that the trains stopped running at 1. So we were like, oh shit, it's damn near 12:35, 12:50, something like that. And he's like, I gotta go. I'm like, I bet. So battery fixed. I'm thinking everything cool. So he leave. I go back downstairs to clean up, because I don't really like having the space be dirty after I left. I'm black. I don't really want them having to call me and come, hey, sir, we don't want you down in the basement no more working on your bike because you always leave a mess. So I'm like, all right, cool. I'm going to go upstairs. I'm going to get a broom from the guy that works at the front desk. I'm going to go downstairs. I'm going to sweep it up. I'm going to be a good, what do you call a tenant, right? So I'm like, you know what? My bike was acting kind of funky before I got it fixed. So I'm wondering if since I changed the wiring, like I said before, I didn't get to ride it after I originally changed the wiring. So I'm like, all right, cool. What I'm going to do is I'm going to plug it in. I'm going to just ride around downstairs just to see how it feels. And I'm going to go upstairs. And then tomorrow will be the podcast. Then on Wednesday, I go back to work. Oh, that's what I thought was going to happen. That's what I thought was probably going to happen, right? But look at me, a clown with an L. That's me. So I take the battery. I put it inside the bike. I'm like, here we go. I'm like, it's time. I've just been waiting almost 2 months to have my bike up and ready at a good point. And actually it's better than before because I had a BMS and I have a charger, a better charger, a charger that actually matches my battery now. Before I had a charger that did not match it because as you probably even know this, a year ago, Matt had to fix my battery because it stopped working a year ago. So he took off the BMS from a year ago. So right now it's supposed to be, you don't have to know what these terms mean. Just know this. There's 15 cells in it, and he took one out, and now it's 14. So that was before because it stopped working. So because of that, I had a charger for 15 cells, even though I only have 14. So it was trying to charge it for 15, and I only have 14. That's how it becomes overcharged, right? That was a quick electricity lesson for you guys. Now you guys can go out and build a bike. So I'm like, okay, let's plug this thing in. I'm excited. I want to see how it feels. I want to ride it. The Bluetooth is it's glowing. I never had that before coming out the battery. I'm like, oh, this is going to be good. Matt was telling me, yeah, bro, when you come back to work, just come to the shop. I could put a new shrink wrap on and make it look real neat. I'm like, oh, this is exciting. I like this. So I go and I plug in this bomb in my basement. That's what I did. I plugged in a bomb in my basement because when I tell you, like, people watch cartoons and watch those superhero movies, right? There's a guy called the Human Torch, and that's what I like to resemble. What I saw that yesterday, I saw compare it to the Human Torch, right? So there are two plugs, right? It's called a female plug, and it's called a male plug, right? So these two plugs connect to each other, right? Just two go together, and whenever you plug in, when there's a good connection and you plug in the battery that's that size, it's always going to be a spark. You guys may have seen this when you guys go and you plug it in to your wall. You might see the outlet do a little, click, little spark. Nothing big. Y'all see it. It's whatever, right? So this happens a lot with the bike. It pretty much happens every single time with the bike because the battery is large and it causes that spark when you connect it to the controller to the battery, right? So I'm used to that. So, and I'm used to, it's usually a sound. It turns I just remember something as I'm telling the story. So whenever you connect it, I have something called spark protecting plugs. Thank the Lord Jesus Christ that I have these. So when you connect, oh my goodness, if I didn't. And once you connect these, there's a spark inside of the casing. You can see it because it turns red, right? It's a yellow case. If you want to see what I'm talking about, they're called XT90 plugs. They're yellow, and when you plug them in, there's like a little red spark, and then you just keep going about your day. You hear it, you see it, boom, you go to work. So, of course, like I said, this is what I'm used to. So my ass goes and I plug in the female to the male like it's supposed to be. Red to red, black to black. Remember, always red to red, always black to black. This is what I did. I plugged these shits in and I heard the little click. I'm like, all right, that's the first part. Like I said before, it's a little spark connection. And I'm waiting for the red. I'm waiting for the red to happen after the spark. There was some red. There was a little bit of red. And I saw the red. So I was like, okay, I'm used to red. I see red. And as I went to push these two things together, fire started shooting out of both ends of the wires while I'm holding them. My hands, I'm gonna put the pictures on the screen. My hands was holding fire. Like y'all like Donovan, what do you mean hand was holding? Like what the fuck you talking about? Okay. Think of my hands, right? Think of two hands and then put fire in them. Okay, that's what happened. That's what it looked like. I plugged these two things in and fire shot out both ends of the plugs, the one from the controller and the one from the battery. And I might have heard an explosion. I don't even remember now. I think my memory might have been wiped from the trauma that I experienced from what I saw yesterday. I plugged these two things in and a fire, like I said, is shooting out both ends of these things. Now, my brain isn't really understanding what's happening because I already know it's supposed to be a red spark. It's supposed to be a sound, a red spark, and then the bike is plugged in. So my ass is still holding the plugs together like, okay, this was supposed to happen, right? But my brain isn't registering that there's fire shooting out of the plugs. I just like, okay, put them together, bike works. So as I'm holding them, I'm like, this is a big ass spark. I'm like, this shit is big as fuck. I'm like, oh my God, it's fire. Like it's actually, there's fire shooting out the sides of these things. So when I did that, I just dropped the what is it called? The plugs that I had, right? So the controller fell out the bike. So it was hanging outside of the bike. And the pieces that I plugged in were still connected, right? So the thing is funny because I had asked Matt earlier that day. I'm like, yo, what would cause a battery to explode? Like what things would I'm just curious. I like to ask questions because I just like to have information for one, but I also want to make sure because I have information, I can be safer based off if I'm making guesses or making decisions based off of information that I have about dangerous subjects. So he was like, yeah, so basically it's like this. I'm gonna give you my idea of how it works, right? I was gonna use a racetrack as an example. Okay, so I don't know that'd be a good example. So I'll just use how the batteries actually work. Okay, so this is how electricity works and why I almost set myself on fire yesterday. But honestly, we don't even know exactly what happened. Well, we don't know why it happened. We know what happened. We just aren't sure what the fuck caused that. So electricity works like this. It's supposed to have a current that goes all the way through. You have a racetrack. The electricity goes all the way around. Everything's supposed to be good, right? The only time you see a short circuit, only time you see a spark is when there's a short circuit somewhere or something like that. Yeah, you can see a connection. When you'll see a spark during a connection, but a short circuit is when somewhere along that line that current is broken, right? So that's usually when you start a fire. So what'll happen is, what'll happen is once you plug these two things in together with a battery, once let's say the positive and the negative touch each other, they're going to try and get away from each other as quickly as possible because they repel. They don't want to be touching each other, right? So that's when you'll see some type of explosion or spark or something. So when I was asking, I'm like, what would cause something to explode? He was saying, or the battery to explode. He was saying that if you were to somehow connect the batteries positive to the batteries negative and then hold them together, that will cause it to explode. My explanation for that, or my thought behind that, is that power is building up and it needs somewhere to go out. If you have a spark like I saw with the fire, that's where it goes out. It goes out right there. as opposed to if you keep them connected, it's just building up all the energy. So it's like, okay, I need to go to the weakest point of this battery, and at that point, if you're still holding in those two plugged together, the weakest point of that battery will be somewhere in the cells, which is the most dangerous part, which you don't want to explode. So he was saying, yeah, if you were to put those two pieces together, that's what would cause it to happen. It would cause the battery to explode. So like I said before, the plugs are hanging, they're still connected. They're still inside. The male and the female plugs are still touching each other, but I don't think that the connectors inside of the plugs are actually touching. The metal part inside of it, I don't think that's touching. As long as those things are not touching, the plugs are not actually technically connected. So my whole thing was I want to remove these plugs so that the metal does not touch at all. I don't need whatever happened to happen again. So I'm like, all right, bet. I went upstairs, like, Melissa, I need you to come downstairs. I want you to hold the controller up in the air so that I can move and remove these plugs. Because the last time I was working on my bike in the apartment, I was going to change the connectors on the battery, and I cut the two wires. Yeah, exactly. I cut the two wires on the battery, and the problem that I did was I've never changed the connectors on the battery while they were on the battery. So what I did wrong was I cut them both at the same time. Now, when I cut them at the same time, I connected the red and the wire through the metal scissors. So, yeah, red and black through the scissors, right? So when that happened, when I connected both of them through the red and the black wires, it's a short circuit. It started sparking. So I'm like, fuck. I wasn't expecting that because normally when I cut them, they're not connected to an actual battery. But my brain wasn't thinking that. It was like, all right, just cut them both and you'll be fine. If I cut them one at a time, I would have been fine. Cut them both at the same time, fucked up. Started sparking. I burned the floor. Is that on the podcast? I feel like it's not. Nah, it's not. That was a long time ago. But I definitely, it's somewhere. I remember talking about it somewhere. So I don't know where it is, but it's somewhere where I talked about how I almost burned how I burned the hole in the floor. It's not even there anymore, is it?
I don't think so.
I don't know where it is. It's somewhere in that area. So.
Oh, it is.
Where? Oh, okay. Well, that's not. Oh, okay, that's not that big. So that's what happened with that. That was last year. So the reason I'm telling you that story is because after that happened, I'm like, fuck, that was crazy. So I went to go and remove the wire from the scissors, and it started sparking again. I'm like, all right, fam, come on. Like, why are you sparking now? You're not even plugged in. What the fuck is happening? But what I found out was that they were still touching a metal piece that was on the floor. So for me, my thing was with the thing that happened yesterday is I didn't want to move the connectors and they somehow make contact with something else on the bike that then cause it to then start smoking, catch on fire, explode, spark, whatever. I'm like, okay, I want to be able to move the controller out the way. I don't want any type of possibility of these two connectors touching again while I'm removing them. So I asked Melissa to come downstairs, and she picked up the controller while it was hanging out the side of the bike. I unplugged it. Now, like I said before, when these two things touch, they want to repel from each other as quickly and as fast as possible. And one thing I've learned from this, another thing that happened to me in the house, or almost. Listen, I clearly have a tendency of blowing shit up. So the other thing that happened to me was, I bought a new voltmeter. A voltmeter is what you use to check the percentage of your battery, right? That's what for layman's term, that's what it will do. Or it does a couple other things, but that's why I bought it. I want to know what percentage my battery was at while I was in the house. So I bought a voltmeter. Now, what I did wrong was I plugged the wrong, I put the wrong setting on the voltmeter. So when I plugged into the battery, I guess I sent electricity through the battery from they're called leads, the thing that you would use to stick inside of the battery. That's called a lead. I put that into the battery and that incinerated, right? It just pretty much evaporated into dust, and it was sparking and fire, and well, not really fire that much. That was more of just a really loud spark. And it was incinerated. The metal piece that you used to touch it, gone, right? So the reason I'm telling you that is because yesterday, like I was thinking, okay, boom, it's a possibility that these two connectors might touch again while I'm trying to unplug them. I don't want it to happen because, like I said, with the other example, with the scissors, if you move it around too much and it touches something else that's metal, boom, now everybody's on fire. So I'm like, all right, bet. Here's what I'm going to do. Call my girlfriend, come downstairs, unplug it. Everything should be good. When I unplugged it, the metal parts inside of each of the plugs are incinerated. They're gone. So there was no possibility of them even touching each other again, because from that fire that I saw, it incinerated all the metal that was inside of the plastic plug. It's gone. There's nothing to touch at all. I'm gonna post pictures of it on here so you can see exactly what I'm talking about, how it's supposed to look, and then how it actually looks. Gone. So that I didn't have to worry about that at all. So that's how my last couple of months have been. 2 months have been with my bike. So I'm gonna run down what happened with my bike again from the top. Spokes broke. After the spokes broke, I had to get them fixed. But because I couldn't get them fixed, let me start over. Spokes broke. I had to get special spokes to fix my bike. I had to wait a long time for those and only go to one person that could put them in. Finally got that done. Started working. My bike was up against a pole. My bag got caught on the throttle of my bike. I didn't want to fly into the street, so I held it. While I held it, it made all electricity build up in one spot, and the controller started smoking out my bike. Bike's broken. It's not working. I'm like, all right, so that shit is fucked up. Boom. Now, third thing, caught a flat. I'm like, all right, I can fix that myself. Caught the flat, fix the flat. Actually before I fixed the flat, forgot about that. I got a new controller. After I got the new controller, the motor stops working. That's what happened after the controller. So spokes, controller, motor stops working. Get the motor fixed, get a flat. Get the flat fixed, battery stops working. Get the battery fixed, I don't even know what the fuck happened now. Almost catch on fire. That's where we at. This is the last 2 months of me trying to get back to work. So when things like this happen, it makes me just think, okay, something is coming from this. Something positive is going to come from this. This is where my mind is at. And funny enough, me and Matt were having this conversation where we were saying that around this time every year, something bad happens like this. 2 years ago, my bike got stolen around the same exact time. And I actually it was around the same exact time that my bike either got stolen or I got it back. But it was in August, going into September. And even going back before that, I vaguely remember I usually have bad things happen to me around this time. So I'm just like, all right, bring what else? Let's see what you got. So, excuse me. So that's where we at now. So now after this podcast, I'm going to go downstairs, call Matt and try and troubleshoot the battery and see what the fuck happened. Because again, I can't even fathom what, like, my brain, even when I think about it, I'm like, is the image I have in my head of what I saw really what I saw? Because I'm like, I was holding it and it was fire shooting on both sides of it. So I'm just like, what the fuck was that? Like, out of my, yeah. So that's how that was. What else? Yeah, so that's, like I said, so between that and then the loan thing, that kind of annoys me because my plan, oh shit. I like to have different, what would you call those? Contingencies. I like to have a lot of contingency plans. So my original contingency plan was get a loan, liquidate my money, buy an apartment, multifamily unit, and then rehab it and resell it, get the money from that, pay off my debt, buy another property, get the cash flow from the building, and then repeat. That's what I wanted to do. So because the money I didn't get from the loan and my bike isn't working, no, let me take a step back. Because I get the money from the loan, next contingency is to apply for the loan under my business, and then change what I applied originally to an independent contract. That's the rest I'm going to do for that. Before the whole loan thing happened, I thought, okay, my bike will be fixed by now, so I can at least go and work on my bike to make up the money that I would have gotten from the loan and put that towards down payment for a house. So like I said, now the bike is not working and I didn't get the loan. Now I'm like, okay, what's the next contingency plan? Which is trying to get my bike fixed again. And now my funds are running low and I don't have a bike to work on. So it's just kind of like, but again, like I said, whatever happens, happens. I'm kind of like, I feel better with that mindset as opposed to before. So I'm like, we'll see what happens. And what else? Where else am I at? The only problem with that mindset that I have is that I feel like Melissa is not able to handle that kind of mindset. I feel like whenever I tell her something, I'm like, hey, what do you think about this? I feel like her brain automatically goes to the worst possible outcome of it. And it could just be a suggestion. So I'm trying to balance both of those two things. Like, okay, I'm thinking about this, I'm considering that, and I'm just trying to weigh my options. But I don't think that what?
Hey, what are you talking about?
Nothing. I don't think that she's able to do that at all. I don't think that's not really up her alley. So
Pertaining to what?
what are you talking about?
What you just said.
What did I say?
That I'm not able to. I see the bad side of.
So,
Yes.
what happened? What happened? Okay. So, what was I saying? So I'm gonna try and do some other things to get that ball rolling. I'm trying to figure out what happened with my bike. So we think that somehow the black and red wire touched on the bike, and that's what caused that to happen. We're not really sure. But yeah. So that was the impromptu life update for that was the most recent, like recent, which is the last 30 minutes and the yesterday life update. What else? I'm trying to think. I feel like there was some other stuff I wanted to cover. The loan. Yeah. So those are the most, not the most important, but those are the most recent things. Yeah, today's podcast is not going to be as long because I'm like, okay, I got to figure out. For one, it's already 4:00 and it's already 6:10, which is mad late. So, like I said, I'm going to do something about that and I feel like I've said it before. And one thing, this is one of the problems I have with the podcast is normally in my life, I don't like telling people what I'm going to do before I do it because it's less likely to get done when you do that. So I try not to say it, but I know that it's good for people to hear me say it. So I'm just kind of on the fence about saying things that I want to do before I do it. That's all. I think that you release some type of dopamine or serotonin in your body when you say, oh, I'm going to do this thing, I'm going to do that thing. And you get the reward from somebody being like, good job, great, you're going to do that. And then because you got the reward before you actually did the work, you never actually go out and do the thing that you were supposed to do originally because you technically already got the reward for doing it. So that's why with me, I'm like, okay, I don't want to say what I'm going to do, but maybe if I say it, it'll push me to do it more. So that's what I'm kind of battling with right now. So it's weird. That's one of the weird things about being on a podcast, especially when you're on it by yourself. I think that makes it kind of hard to do because what I was going to say was waking up. I need to get up earlier, which I've said before. The podcast cannot start at 4:00. That throws the whole day off. Everything is just messed up. But between, I had to twist my hair. I had been taking care of my hair very often. I didn't start the podcast earlier. I feel there was something else I did. I ate late today. I was on social media. So it's like, it's a lot of things that happen for me not to start the podcast that I could have easily started it. So like I said, I need to just be more on top of that. I need to be more on top of that. That's what I need to be doing more of. And I keep telling myself that when I get back to my normal routine of going to work, I'll be starting a podcast earlier. One thing that's been throwing me off is the fact that I don't have work. So I'm more lax about getting a podcast filmed by 10 because I'm like, okay, I don't have to work on Wednesday. I'm not going to work. My bike is not working. I'm not going to bed on time the day before. So it's just all leading up because normally on Monday I'll get home by 9:30, 10, whatever. I eat, I go to bed. I'm up by 8 or 6. I can start the podcast early. That's how it used to be. Then my bike stopped working. So now I'm like, okay, I'm up all day Monday. I stay up late Monday because I don't have to go to work for a whole week. And then Tuesday comes, I'm like, I don't have to really do it at 10. I could do it at 12. I could do it at 2. And as you guys have seen, it was at 10. Then it went to like 11:30. Then it was like 11:50. Then it was like 12:07. Then it's like 12:50. Then it's 1:25. Then it's 2:30. And now here we are starting a podcast, I think almost at 5 o'clock. and I can see it going in the wrong direction. So I reckon even today I was thinking about it. I'm like, it's probably gonna come a day where the podcast starts at like 8 or 9, and we're trying to just get it out. So before we even get to that, I need to make sure that I reel it back in to get it back to where it needs to be at, because this I can already see it going in a direction it shouldn't be. It doesn't need to be going. And I think that goes with a lot of people in life in general. Like you can see the baby steps of you going in a direction you shouldn't be going, and once you start seeing those micro aggressions for yourself, you're like, okay, whoa, pull it back. If my goal is to be here by 8, then the later that I keep getting, that lets me know I'm going away from my goal. The goal should be, if to be there by 8, then you should be getting there by 7:50, 7:45, 7:30. That's how you know you're hitting your goal, because now you're doing your thing earlier than you plan to do it. So like I said, I need to get back on top of that. So that's gonna be what I plan to do going forward, because this is not cool. But like I said, I keep thinking that if my bike is fixed, I'll be back into the groove. But clearly, my bike is not getting fixed, so shit keeps happening. So I'm trying to just juggle those things and figure that out. And I think it was the bike. What else was on the list I want to talk about? Yeah, like I said, I'm kind of out of it, because I'm just like, and this is the same thing I'm talking about before, like what I just said, where like I'm going in a direction that's not good. I should be going in the opposite direction, but I'm already kind of drained from this. You got to recalibrate. That's what I'm thinking about right now. Like, okay, how do I get back in the mode? Not in the mode, but how do I get back on track of what I'm planning to do? One thing I talked about before was analysis paralysis. And I talked about this last week on the podcast, but I didn't actually give a solution for it. And I want to say the actual solution for analysis paralysis. If you feel like you have too many decisions or too many thoughts or too many options about making a decision, the best thing to do is just do one of them. Don't think about the consequence of it. Just go out and just do it. Because either way, if you pick A or you pick B, there's going to be pros and cons to each. But if you stay at the starting line, you don't pick either one of them, then you don't even get to experience the pros of each one of those options that you could have chosen. And you think that because you're not choosing, that's the better option. But at the end of the day, if it's John and Joe at the starting line, and then John goes to track A and he chooses the wrong track, he's like, oh shit, I should go to track B. He goes to track B, but you never left, so you don't even get to choose. You don't even get to make that. You don't even get to make that wrong choice and then change your mind. So that's why last week I talked about why I bought the real estate course and why I bought the table, because I'm like, you just have to do something. You can't just not do anything. The more you do nothing, the time just goes by, the time wastes. And me and Matt talked about this yesterday. One thing that'll happen when you are thinking about all the things that you could possibly be doing, or you're thinking about all the things that could possibly happen to you, you end up not doing anything. And then what comes from that is you go, ooh, I'm exhausted. Now I'm gonna take a nap, or I'm gonna go and relieve stress by playing basketball or playing video games or having sex. You're just trying to figure out, okay, how can I make the stress of thinking about the things I could be doing go away, instead of actually doing something. Just do something of the two options that you have. Because when I say do something, people might take that as, oh, do something, just go out and just do something unrelated to what you plan to do. No, out of the option that you have, you're supposed to be cleaning your room, you're supposed to be doing your homework, you're supposed to be studying or learning something new, or whatever the case might be. Do one of those things. Whatever one you don't want to do, don't just do one of them, and then figure out later if you should change it to something else. So that's one of the solutions for analysis paralysis. I didn't talk about that last week. And then, so this kind of ties into what I was saying earlier about not working for these companies, because I was talking to Matt about going to work yesterday, and he said that it's almost like he was like, it doesn't even make sense going outside because you're not making any money. They're sending you these long orders for $4. You don't know if you can get a tip. He says it was hard to make $100 during the night shift. So I'm gonna talk to Boyd, because Boyd makes a lot of money on there. So I have to see I have to kind of just gauge different people and see, okay, what is he saying? What are they saying? What's going on? Because at some point I might get back on the bike. Hopefully, God willing, I don't. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because I used to always say, like, okay, why do people say money is the root of all evil? I don't understand why that is. As I've gotten older, I kind of understand it a little bit more. And people say you're a slave to money and, all of these different cliches. And I'm always like, okay, I'm a pessimist and I'm kind of like, okay, that sounds stupid. That doesn't make any sense to me. Are you just saying it's some type of conspiracy where money is just uh, uh, the devil, right? I like to be more practical than that. So as I think about it, I go, okay, if money, why do people say money is the root of all evil, right? I think people that say it don't actually think about what it is. They just repeat something that they've heard. But when I've been breaking it down, I feel like money is used to do bad things. Like the whole purpose of it is to do negative things. I feel like it was created in the sense that it was to get people to do things that you want them to do. So if I want somebody to build me a house, I have to give them money. It's very rare, and I don't know a situation where somebody would build a house without receiving some type of money in return. And I think maybe before, like a bartering system was like, okay, you build my house, I give you 3 chickens and a cow. But I don't feel like you were a slave. You weren't working for your chickens. You weren't working for your cow. You had the cows, you made them, and then you kind of traded what you have. You could either trade your time, you could trade maybe, the cows or the farm, whatever the case might be. But I feel like now people will throw money at you in different industries to make you do things you don't want to do. And the more money they give you, the more you feel like it's justified to do what you're actually doing. So if you were to take something like, I'm going to take podcasting, for example, right? If somebody said, hey, Donovan, I'm going to pay you $20 million to podcast for 6 hours every day for the next 7 years, right? I'm going to tell you $20 million a year, but every day for the next 7 years, you're going to podcast for 6 hours a day. It's like, that's a lot of money. But is that money worth, and a lot of people might take that because technically you guys do that for a lot less. You guys go to work 5 days a week for $25,000 and that you're not getting paid nowhere near the amount I just came up with. But you're doing it. Why? Because somebody's giving you money to do it. There's no value to you to do it. You just feel like, okay, I need this money to be able to survive and live and do other things. So that's what I'm going to go out and do this, get this money for. So when I think about money, I feel like that's how it's kind of people become a slave to it because you are willing to do things for it that you would not normally do if money was not involved in the equation. When I look at people on TV, like the girls who are in the music industry who are just being naked all the time on television. I look at this girl on her name is Selena Powell. She was on the No Jumper podcast. And I look at people like that. I look at girls like her who got their bodies done. And I'm like, you can't tell me that you are. What? I thought you would say something. You can't tell me that you're getting your body done for something other than to appease somebody else. You're not going to convince me that, okay, I got my breast bigger because I wanted to, I don't even know, be better shaped or something. Because everybody that I can't find people that say they got their body done and are happy with it. They have to just go at. It's funny because even yesterday I listened to this girl talking about it. She was saying that she has uneven hips after her surgery. Now she's like, oh, fuck it, I don't care. And I'm like, you could have had that same mindset before you got the surgery done. Because she's like, if a guy doesn't love me for my uneven hips, then I shouldn't be with him. And it's like, yes, you should have had that same mindset before you got the surgery. You don't have to go out and get the surgery to have that kind of confidence to be like, listen, either I'm really skinny or I'm really big. Well, that's not, no, let me pull it in a little bit. Whatever things you were born with that may not be seen as perfect, those are the things that you just go, okay, I'm gonna live with these things. But if you can change it by being healthy or exercise or things like that, or maybe getting your teeth whitened or straightened or taking care of your skin, things like that. Those are the type of things that you would do to be more attracted to other people. You don't have to go out and go, you know what? I'll make my ass bigger. I'm going to get my waist cinched in. I'm going to make my breast bigger. I'm going to get a fake 6-pack. Because at the end of the day, you're going to get all those things. I've said it 100 times before. It's not going to give you the confidence you think you're going to get from it. At the end of the day, you're going to have to just decide, I don't care what people think about me. I just have to like the body that I have and be a personable and charismatic person. So this, and the reason I bring this up, like I said before, is when it ties into money. I feel like people are doing these things because there's money involved in it. So the more that you botch your body by doing surgery, the more likes you get on Instagram. Now, how does that work? How do you get, what does more likes equate to on Instagram? It creates to more ad revenue. The ad revenue is paid for through people, the ad companies. They pay Facebook, they pay Instagram, they pay Snapchat, they pay them with money. So they want people looking at their website. If you go out there and you fuck your body up, you get this disproportionate butt, you get this disproportionate breasts, you try and cut your back and you cut your knees, everything else looks all weird before, or so you thought, and then you change it to make it look, funny enough, it looks even crazier now, but you get people staring at you. And you think that because you're getting money off of it, that it makes you I thought the battery is dying again. You think that it makes you I don't even know what it would be, a valuable person. You feel like, okay, I'm getting paid, so I'm doing the right thing. And it's like, no, just because you're getting paid to do something doesn't mean it's actually helpful to anybody. It doesn't help anybody. When you tell me you have OnlyFans, when you tell me that you're out here fucking a bunch of dudes and sleeping around just so you can come out and talk about it, or you're trying to, like I said, it just, when I see stuff like that, I'm like, I feel as though if money wasn't involved in these OnlyFans situations, people wouldn't be doing them. And you got to think to yourself, why does money flow in the direction of things that are not good for you? Why doesn't money flow in a direction that's positive? It's very rare that you'll see positivity. Like, I was thinking about this yesterday. How often do you hear people talk about pushing meditation? Like, I think it's very rare that they push that. Imagine if you had a OnlyFans account, right? Or let's call it only meds. No, I don't like that term either. Let's say it's meditation.com. We call it that, right? And when you go on there, if you can meditate for an hour straight, they give you $1,000. If you can get somebody to meditate with you, you get an extra $400. They don't have that. They don't have anything like that. Money doesn't flow in that direction. Money flows in the direction of, okay, if you go outside and beat somebody up on camera and then show your titties and show your pussy and suck some dick, the money flows right into that direction. Why is that? And I'm like, and I always think about it like this. Is that like a not personal, is that a human characteristic that we want to see that? Or do we just think that's what we want to see? Because I don't really care to see it. Like, I don't, it's not, let me think, do I really care to see it? I think I'll be fine without it. Yeah, it's weird. It's very weird. And the reason I'm saying it's weird is because I equate this, and it's something I've talked about with Melissa, with people who wear makeup. If you go outside and it's two girls walking down the street and one of them is dressed up like a clown, she has all this makeup on, she has this crazy hair, she has these crazy shoes, these crazy pants and shirt and backpack. She's like a clown. She has red hair like a clown, just clown type stuff, right? And she's walking next to another girl who has no makeup on, natural hair, dressed very modestly, just a regular walking down the street person, right? People are going to look more at the girl just like a clown. But does that mean that that's who we should emulate? Like, because people are looking at her? And I feel like that's what social media kind of is. It's taking that and then monetizing it and putting it on your phone. Where it's like, okay, how many clowns can we have on social media that we can look at forever? And then when you have that, you have the ads, people come, oh, you're looking at this clown for 2 hours long? Well, let me just put this ad for Nike in front of that. Let me put this ad for Home Depot right in front of that. You like looking at this clown? And then you go, oh, people say, oh, I gotta do this like a clown to get money. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna go and dress up like a clown. I'm gonna get surgery like a clown. I'm gonna act like a clown, and I'm gonna get paid for it. And it's just like, yeah, my brain's trying to wrap around. Is that human nature to look at? It's weird because you look at it. Yeah, that's why I don't even think, maybe the whole business model is fucked up. Why do we pay people for attention? Because attention is not good. Just having somebody's attention isn't necessarily a good thing. And what garners more attention? Is it information that's helpful or is it information that's ridiculous? Yeah, well, that's Donovan's question for today. There you go. You could put that on Donovan's questions. Because I'm trying to figure out like, But these are kind of things I talk to myself when I'm like in the shower and just thinking, I'm like, okay, this is where my brain goes to. How do I fix these kind of situations? What is the root problem of these situations? And why does money flow in that direction? Because I believe that, well, first of all, when I heard this podcast yesterday on No Jumper with these two girls talking, I'm just like, I can feel my brain cells dying. I can feel them slowly melting away listening to that. But I know a lot of people are going to listen to it. But when I listen to it, I'm just like, this is brain melting content. And if I had the choice to listen to content uh, that stimulated me, I would listen to it. But it's harder to find that kind of information. I feel like it's the information that I want to listen to and look for. It's harder to find, and it's less in abundance. I can find way more Instagram thoughts than I can find of people who are honestly giving you information on how to become a better person, who actually have information on how to feel better and do better. And that's one of the reasons why I have the Bamboo Project, because I feel like that certain things that I'm doing can lead to that. So I'm like, okay, if I can succeed in what I'm doing, then I can actually translate to other people and communicate with them and say, okay, here's how I did this. You can do that too. That's what I'm trying to get people to be able to do that. What,
What about guys? These three examples was geared towards females.
what about guys?
Like, what example of, like, how would you equate that to guys, I guess?
Um,
Or, like, what would be an example that, I guess, a guy could look for that would,
let me see.
that would resonate with them?
I don't really know. You have any examples? Because I'm like, the women lead everything, so it's like girls dress up like that because guys are gonna stare at them. So and then that's the attention, and then other girls look at them and go, oh, that's what I should look like. Let me go and dress like that and look like that. So I'm trying to think like a guy. I would say maybe trolling or trying to fight people, maybe something like that. I don't really know because like I said, guys are following girls. If girls made it cool to meditate and only have sex with guys that meditate. I don't think it's the other way around. I don't think if guys were meditating, it'd be like, oh God, guys meditating. I want to do that. So if you have an example, I would, you know.
The reason why I asked is because I felt a little something in my chest.
Mm-hmm.
Because it just felt like it was really just geared towards women. But when you explain it like that, it makes sense. I
Yeah.
just wanted to make sure that got out there.
Yeah, because I'm like, I'm trying to think of, I was talking to somebody today about the guy that she's talking to, and I think that, yeah, it's even, they have, the guy that she's talking to is clearly toxic, right? And I feel as though he is, I feel like it's only entertainment if the girl engages with it. So if you put that on TV, I feel like that is what would make it something that somebody would want to watch. Because let me see, reasons that guys would fight over something would probably be if you took a girl out of it, disrespect, maybe money, possibly those two things. But I feel like it's more so about women. And I feel like even when it's not about women, it's about women. So if there's a woman in a room, something that was small now became bigger because a woman is there. So I feel like it's a lot to put on a woman, but that's just what I noticed. It was like, okay, if you guys are by yourself, a guy's gonna be like, that's whatever. You put a woman there, now a guy making a joke is like, what the fuck you said to me? Why are you talking like that? Now it's a whole thing. So it's kind of like, and as far as media goes, if you was to, I'm thinking about something like the reality TV shows,
Stop cooking
huh? If you think about the reality TV shows, can you think of a all male reality TV show?
that doesn't have a female involved.
Not really. I'm thinking about the Kardashians. They're like all women. The Bad
Oh,
Girls
like a
Club.
reality TV show.
Yeah, that's like majority just men.
The only thing that I can think of might be some kind of. I don't even. Would they count? Well, I don't know of anything with them living in a house. Probably maybe like Black Ink and stuff like that, where they're doing tattoos. but even then, there's still a lot of females on the show, and maybe things that are athletic driven.
Like what?
Like I don't know, American Ninja Warrior or something like
That's
that.
not really reality TV.
That's insane.
So that's something like I don't really know because I'm not trying to be biased. I can't think of a lot of of TV shows that's like male driven that are pushed on us. It's like the Kardashians. It's usually girls doing wild shit, and then you throw a guy in there to make the girl do wild shit with the guy, and then the guy hit the girl, throw her in the water. Like it's usually that type of thing. But if you bring a girl in a relationship into a TV show with a guy, and she's like, I'm not entertaining this, like you're acting like a child, then I feel like the whole dynamic changes where he's like, oh, you know what, yeah, you were, I shouldn't be like you, I was wilding. I feel like that's what would end up happening. I think it's very rare that you'll see a situation where 5 girls are like, bro, you're wilding, and he's like, no, fuck out of here, fuck that, fuck out of here. I feel like at some point he just gonna be like, all right, like if all y'all girls say I'm wilding, then I'm wilding. And like I said, I'm trying to think of it. I don't really know. I was gonna say maybe The Bachelor or The Bachelorette would probably be something like that. Whichever one where there's a bunch of guys going after the girl. That's where the guys go after the girl. And even then, it's over a girl. So it's like, it's still that relationship dynamic. Like the Kardashians is not really, it's drama filled. I don't know. I mean, there's guys in it too. It's just a weird thing where it's like they try to push the craziest stuff on you, the most unhealthiest things on you. And then people try to emulate that. So that's why, like I said, I think that's why I'm always on women like that, because they don't understand. They don't understand the power that they have to change a lot of stuff. But, and this is what I always say before about, I said this last week, where I think that black women are I think women are more powerful than men. And I think that black women are the most powerful type of woman. But because of that, we have to oppress them, because we don't want them to know that. Because if we tell them that, then they'll be like, oh shit, the power dynamic could change. And nobody who's in power wants it to happen. They don't want it to change like that. So it's like, but it's clear that guys do things for women. Like that's usually how guys operate, whether it's directly or indirectly, because a guy might be like, you know what, I need to have this manhood on me at all times. So they want to make sure that they're strong, but for the woman. And then it's weird because they don't be like that with the woman. They get home with her and act. They want to just look like they're strong. So, but like I said, I think that it's up to women to set the standard of what should be acceptable and what shouldn't be acceptable. That's why I'm not a proponent of fake eyelashes or fake hair or makeup or surgery. I'm not a fan of any of those things. Just not my thing. So one of the things I'm thinking about now is that I got denied because I didn't apply for enough or more. And I think if I apply again, I'm going to get way more than I thought I was going to get originally. That's what I'm thinking. So we're going to see. Something's going to come from this. Something positive will come out of this somehow. I'm going to figure out some type of solution from this. Oh, my nose. What else is out there? Oh, yeah, I was listening to Joe Budden podcast. And I had this question. You can put some Donovan's questions too. Is that who's more important in a relationship? The person that builds the person that builds the infrastructure, or the person that provides the content for that infrastructure? So, like, if you have a kingdom and the king goes and, I don't know, let's say he ravages a place, pillages a place, and he owns that land, right? Or even he builds up, let's use more modern examples. We will use Spotify. If you have Spotify and they have their people on staff who build Spotify, who build out the streaming and how it works behind the scenes, and they build out the network for it, they have the connections to get money to build it up and make it accessible to millions of people or billions of people to listen to, and they have the infrastructure to put multiple songs on there and things like that. Are they more important than the people that actually produce the songs and produce the content and produce the podcasts that go on that platform? I was just thinking about that, like who's more important in that scenario? I believe, I want to say it's the, yeah, I'm going with the content creators are more important than the person who builds the infrastructure. You agree with that?
I do.
Okay. One of the things that I had said after I said that before, when I was talking to Melissa about it, is that I feel as though there's some type of symbiotic relationship there. Um, but the difference is, if you take out the content creators from that dynamic, there will always be content creators, and they can go and take their content to anybody, to the masses. They can go around and just collect people and do things like that. I think that the only thing that the infrastructure allows them to do is get their product out to more people. But if the infrastructure doesn't even have a product, they can't get anything out to anybody. So they can have these great channels, these great distribution channels, but if I can't put anything in it, there's no reason to have it. There's no reason for me to build all these slides for infrastructure to have music going through it if nobody's giving me music, no one's giving me podcasts, no one's giving me interviews, no one's giving me daily updates or anything. It's just, okay, I got this great building, I got this great thing, nobody to put in it. And I think people need to understand that, and you can equate this to any relationship that you have, where it's like, okay, who is the one that's building the inside of whatever is being built instead of the outside of it. But like I said, I think there's definitely a symbiotic relationship there, but it's more so leaning to who is building the inside as opposed to the outside. That's what I was thinking about. So that's one of Donovan's questions. What do you guys think was more important? The person that's building the infrastructure and the platform, or the person that's actually using the platform or providing content for the platform? Because once you realize that, then it kind of puts you in the perspective of who has the power. Even if you think about situations like with money. Money is a platform. You are the talent. You are the creator. You do something and they give you money for it. You can do whatever you want anywhere without the money. You don't need the money to do it. But they tell you, okay, you can only, same thing with the Spotify and Amazon and Facebook and Instagram and things like that. They tell you, okay, you need us to do these things. Otherwise, without us, you wouldn't be doing these things. But it's like, if I'm Dave Chappelle, I can do comedy on a corner. I could do it in the park. I could do it on a roof. I don't need to be on Netflix to do comedy. And if I'm good, people will just talk about it. And then I could, honestly, funny enough, I can build my own infrastructure from how good my content is. You can't build your own content you cannot build your own creator from how great your infrastructure is. It doesn't work that way. Like, if you just can't do that. Oh, the Neuralink thing. I was curious if you guys heard about this. How much time is it left? Yeah. So my question that I wanted to ask people is, Elon Musk, everybody's heard of him, multi-billionaire, Tesla, Solar City, SpaceX, and something called Neuralink. I'm just curious about how many people would get the Neuralink. If you are unaware of what that is, I will give you a little rundown, and then you can go and look it up yourself. So, in layman's terms, the Neuralink is a cell phone that you put in your brain, right? Right now, the first versions are supposed to be able to just cure, like, people who are paralyzed, people who have like schizophrenia, people who have neurological disorders, because it's supposed to act as a wire that's able to send, I believe, neurons. Like, let's say you have an injury in your back, right? When you're paralyzed, that means that there's some type of disconnect between your brain and your back. So you're not actually, that connection not going all the way through. So when your brain says move your leg, it goes all the way down and gets to a certain spot and it's severed, so it can't actually move your leg. The Neuralink is supposed to be that link that connects that severed part of your body, so that you can actually move your arm, move your leg, and things like that. That's the first version, he said. And then after that, he was saying that it should be able to record your memories, play them back for you, call your Tesla, communicate with people without speaking, and I believe you should be able to buy stuff. Don't quote me on the last one, but I wouldn't see why you can't buy stuff with it if it's in your if it's a cell phone that can call your phone and that can call your car to come to you. And the funny thing I saw was that guys, I left out. I might have said it, but I left out the best part. So to get it, you have to get them to drill a hole in your head, and it's gonna go on your brain. It's a little. Think of like a what would be a small? Like, think of maybe like a dime, or a dime no, probably like a nickel or a quarter size coin, and I drill a hole in your head and I put that on your brain and I close it back. And now everything is good. They said it takes about 20 minutes, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more. But they just drill a little hole in your brain, put the little coin on there, and now you can call your Tesla from your brain without using your phone, right? Sounds amazing. That's what you want to do, right? I know everybody's been thinking about like, damn, I wish I could call my Tesla without actually like pulling my phone out of my pocket. That sounds amazing. Well, that's what Elon Musk is trying to do. He wants you to be able to call your Tesla straight from your brain. So, but that wraps it up for today's episode of the Bamboo Project Podcast. Like I said, today my goal is to make this to be the bottom point of the podcast in terms of where we're going after this, because I want to start, like I said, first thing I want to start doing is getting the podcast out, finished at or started at 10 a.m. And what else? Oh, right. So you can follow me on Instagram at DonivanGray. You can follow my beautiful girlfriend, AnetaBurn, AnetaBurn. Timestamps will be in the description below. And all of the different handles that we have. We have a fitness page, food page, music page, clothing page. Hold on. Wait. I want to say podcast. I think there's 8. There's 8 of them. I'm going to run down them again. Maybe it's 6. There's 6 of them. I'm going to try it again. Okay, we got a clothing page. We got a fitness page. We got a music page. We got a...
You on it.
I always forget podcast. I mean, I always say that one last. But I'm like... Because I feel like when I say them, I forget which ones I said, and I want to repeat them again. You got clothing, food, fitness, music, podcast. There's one more. Sports. The sports one I always forget because we haven't been doing it. So it's 6. It's 6 of them. So we appreciate you guys for tuning in. And we're going to see where we go from here. Hopefully next week I hit you up and like, yeah, Leo, podcast, lit, loan lit, about to buy a house. We're going to see. So Bamboo Project out.